evening and welcome to the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education regular meeting for Wednesday, April 14th, 2021. Has this meeting been properly noticed?
Yes, it has.
Would you please call the roll?
Herzog?
Here.
Olmsted?
Here.
Hushel?
Here.
Szilagyi?
Here.
Carlin?
Here.
Evans?
Here.
Garner?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Our next order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led tonight by one of our students, Isabel Cartwright.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. As a member of the Board of Education, I find this to be a very exciting evening. We finally have a chance to bring in students and to recognize students for many, many positive achievements, as well as a group of staff from West High School. It's always important to us as school board members to have students present because it helps remind us of why we're here, and that is for the students. It's all about the students. And there are so many positive things that go on every day in every one of our classrooms and in every one of our extracurricular activities that it's so important to us to take time to recognize the many positive things that are going on in our community and in our schools. There have been a number of actions and activities that have been delayed over the last 13 months because of COVID-19. And one of those activities that was delayed or postponed was the award winners of the Martin Luther King Jr. Essay Contest, which has been conducted for approximately 20 years as a collaborative effort between the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh and the Oshkosh Area School District. Usually these awards are provided in a special meeting, usually on the UW-Oshkosh campus, and students and their parents and friends and their teachers usually come with smiles on their faces, and sometimes excerpts from those essays are read to the public or they're displayed on a screen somewhere. But that didn't happen this year because of the closure of so many places in our community, including the university. So we are delighted tonight to be able to recognize the winners of the citywide Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Essay Contest, and representing the contest review team is Dr. Karen Bowen, who is not only a former board member of this board, but also a former staff member of the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh. So Dr. Bowen is going to come up and announce the winners, and she has some items from UW-Oshkosh to present, and the Oshkosh Area School District also has some certificates to present to these award winners. Dr. Bowen.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here tonight. As Barb said, the last 2 years actually really have been quite screwed up. So, but nevertheless, we persevere, right? So I'd like to thank you to the Board of Education for allowing us to do this. This is a wonderful thing. We normally have my daughter and I, Ann Kotratz, actually run the contest, but we always have judges and la-di-da. However, this year we did not have any judges because we didn't need them. Ann and I could handle the number of essays ourselves. So I'd like to say thank you to the board for doing this, and to the district. I really appreciate it. I'd also like to say thank you to Byron Adams, who is the Director of Educational Support Services for in the Division of Academic Support and Inclusive Excellence at the university. That division has sponsored this contest for all of those years, plus the things that we used to do before. Chancellor Andrew Levitt provides through his funding, he's got some private funding that he can use to give each of the schools who have the first place essay contest winner $400. And they are to use that for schools. The schools are supposed to use that for diversity work and social justice work. So that's what that's for. And so this year, I'll tell you who those schools were later. And, well, you'll know who they are because you'll know who got the first place. I particularly would like to say thank you to all the teachers who have participated all over these years. Many of them are repeats, and I've received essays from them. We've received essays from them every year for almost 20 years. And they encourage their students to study and write about Dr. King and about civil rights. And this is particularly important. We don't have as much of that in the curriculum as I would like to see, but we do have this. I would like to thank all the students, of course, who participated, as I say again, over all these almost 20 years. And the work that they have done is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. You cannot believe the things sometimes that comes from our students. Well, maybe you can. Your parents and your teachers, so you probably can. So I'd also like to thank Cheryl Wirtz, who quickly organized much of this and made the certificates that Dr. Herzog is going to pass out. So I think what I will do, I assume that I will be heard. I'm going to go back in the corner there. I'll find my little pile of goodies.
So that they can be
And I
heard
will
over
call
the mic.
the names. And I will ask you to come over here, and you will receive a plaque. And a
I don't
bag
know,
that
the
is
mics.
bookstore, the university bookstore, that's another group I should thank. They have been providing these sort of bling gifts, if you want to call them that, for over 20 years. So I would like to start.
Maybe you'd like to get closer to the mic.
Would you like me to do that?
And then I
Okay.
can carry these over.
Okay, yeah. I just want to pass up your table. Before I knew what was going to be on. And if you're going to bring those, I will start reading them so we can, I appreciate that. All right, so, I don't know who is here, so it'll be a surprise to me, as well as you. Gabriela Perestado da Silva, is she here? She is the second place elementary winner, and she is from, let me see, I believe she's from Traeger. All right, then I have the third place elementary winner, Joy Wheel. Is she here? Oh, very good. Congratulations, Joy. I'm sorry. Elves. Okay, that's right. You're from Elves. And so is Gabriella. And there's right. This is something very special. Okay.
Hey, Barb.
Now we've got.
Right behind you.
Over here. Middle school, thank you. Middle school, we had only one person who entered this year, and oops, that's. There's still a couple elementary. Okay, here we go. There was only one essay entered at middle school this year, and again, there's not a lot you can do when you have a situation like we had this year. So, Lauren Morgan, is she here? Congratulations, did an excellent job. It was very nice to, we've had situations where we had only one entry at a level, but luckily this one was really good. Oh, yes, that's right. And I did forget to put it in those plaque. Would you like to come up, sir? Thank you. Can you show the audience your plaque? He his parents went to the event at the university this year, which is wonderful. This is Mocha Sabula. He's another ELF student. So, congratulations, and there's your.
Thank you so much.
Here we have the first place high school winner from Oshkosh North. His name is Matthew Sentner. Are you here, Matthew?
Behind you.
Yes. Oh, there you are. Oops.
Matthew, we also have a district certificate for you.
Oh, thank you.
One of our students will come.
Okay. Second place winner is from Oshkosh West, Brianna Young. Is she here? it's hard sometimes for high school students to get to these things because they have stuff to do, you know. Not that you others don't. Okay, we'll leave this here for the school district. And then the second place winner, Sheila Asala Reyes. Is she here? Okay. So she's also from Oshkosh West. So those are this year's winners. And I want to say once again, thank you all for helping me do this. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Dr. Bowen, should we check and make sure that they heard out there if they're still here?
Were there any kids out there?
Okay. Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you later.
Oh my God, we had kids in here. So excited.
You really are a school district.
We always give a special certificate to those who lead the Pledge of Allegiance because that's so important to us, and I forgot to do that earlier. I just got caught up in a moment, so I'll give you this. Thank you so much for coming and doing that for us.
At this point in time, we're going to transition to a special recognition for a Girl Scout Gold Award recipient. And so I would ask for Lauren Spiller to come forward while we read just a little bit about Lauren. The Girl Scouts of the Northwestern Great Lakes will be recognizing Lauren, a Girl Scout who is in 12th grade at Oshkosh West High School, and commending her for becoming a Girl Scout Gold Award recipient. The Girl Scout Gold Award is earned by high school students across the nation each year, and it is the highest achievement awarded in Girl Scouting. Exceptional young women take it upon themselves to make a measurable and sustainable difference in their local or global communities. The Girl Scout Gold Award nurtures a girl's leadership as she energizes and inspires her community. Lauren Spiller repurposed a room at the Christine Ann Domestic Abuse Service Shelter in Oshkosh. The room was turned into an office work area. It can also be repurposed to be used as a bedroom or a safe place for those seeking refuge. As you can imagine, earning a gold award requires a tremendous amount of hard work and dedication. So with that, congratulations, Lauren.
Congratulations, Lauren.
Bye, guys.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations. Good
Well
job.
done. Whether it's a gold award or the Eagle Scout Award for the Boy Scouts, these projects benefit our schools, our students, and our community members, and so we're thrilled to be able to provide this recognition this evening. As I mentioned earlier, the last 13 months have been a time of change and upheaval, postponements, delays, and we've been wanting to provide special recognition to an exceptional group of people in our community who really stepped up on December 3rd, 2019 to protect the health and safety and well-being of every Oshkosh area school district person who works and lived and studied at Oshkosh West High School. And so we felt this was an important night to do that. We had wanted to do this in a larger venue where we could have had more people present and weren't going to be masked, but we don't know when that's going to occur, so we've decided that this recognition is going to take place this evening. In addition to the exceptional and meritorious work by the individuals we are recognizing this evening, there were so many people who contributed to the health, safety, and well-being of our Oshkosh West community on December 3rd of 2019. Oshkosh Police Department, Oshkosh Fire Department, the Winnebago County Sheriff's Department, and many other individuals and groups who came forward and who provided water and food, not only on that day, but on the Friday when all the students at West and all the staff returned to school. Not to mention I would be remiss if I were not to mention the exceptional hospitality of the Perry Tippler Middle School students and staff who welcomed the West High students and faculty into their building and their classrooms while we look to reunite parents and their students.
And Lourdes did too.
And Lourdes, thank you. And we are recognizing also the mosque directly across from West High School for the exceptional service and courage that they provided that day. So without further ado, we have plaques on the presentation table, which I will be handing out as Dr. Cartwright reads the names. Correct? Okay.
Aaron Cole, Oshkosh West High School Principal.
I should probably say what's on these plaques. The Oshkosh Area School District emblem is on there. Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education, special commendation. Presented to, and then the person's name, their title in the school, with gratitude for exceptional and meritorious service at Oshkosh West High School, December 3rd, 2019. We all owe you a debt that we will all remember and be grateful for your contributions. Thank you.
Stephanie Rebholz, School Nurse. Dottie Durant, Health Assistant.
No, thank you. Thank you for your service.
Tina Kane, Health Assistant. Doa Ahmad, Oshkosh West High School senior at the time. And we did have a few others that we would like to recognize that were not able to attend this evening. Brad Jardowski, Oshkosh West High School Activities Coordinator. Aaron Herm, Oshkosh West High School Assistant Principal. Becky Montour, Oshkosh West High School Assistant Principal. Corey Beaulieu, Oshkosh West High School Dean of Students. Ken Levine, Oshkosh West High School Math Teacher. And Officer Mike Wissink, Oshkosh West High School School Resource Officer.
Well, that was not perhaps the proudest day in the history of our district. We will long remember the courage and everything that was done to protect our students and staff from further harm. And so, as I've said earlier, we owe all of you, along with the rest of the West High staff and student body and the Perry Tippler staff and our police department, fire department, and county sheriff's department for all you've done to ensure our continued safety, which is always in our forefront. So thank you. With that, we move on to board and administrative reports, starting with the board president report. This will be very brief tonight. I had the privilege of representing the board last night at the CISA 6 Board of Control meeting, and there were two announcements that I wanted to share with you from that meeting. The first is that there was a grant that was written to the Bureau of Justice Assistance for Mental Health Services. It was a grant that CISA put together and involves 4 school districts. Amro, Shiocton, and Oshkosh. I forgot the fourth one. The important one was Oshkosh. And so the Oshkosh Area School District will be receiving some dollars through CESA 6 to promote the mental health of our students. So that's always good news when we're able to provide that kind of service. And the second thing I want to share is that on April 30th, which is a Friday, CESA 6 is resuming its in-person legislative breakfasts. If you've not attended those are open to school district superintendents, board members, and they also invite area legislators in, and we typically have ongoing conversations with the legislators to let them know how current law or bills that are pending in the legislature may influence our district. So all you would need to do is let Dr. Cartwright or Sherry Wirtz know if you have an intent of attending that. It'll be at 8:30 in the morning, and this time it will be at the Oshkosh Premier Best Western Hotel.
And what was the date again, Dr.
April
Cartwright?
30th,
Thank
so
you.
the last Friday in April.
Thank you so much.
So that is all I have at this time, and we will move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Herzog. Unfortunately, our student representative from Oshkosh North High School was unable to attend tonight, and so they send their condolences. We do have from Oshkosh West High School, she's a substitute, but we're very glad to have you here, Isabella Cartwright. So please.
Thank you. So this presentation will outline everything that Oshkosh West has done from the beginning of the school year up till April. We had a virtual homecoming this year. We did a chalk walk so students could take pictures of their artwork, dress-up days, scavenger hunts. We had our mascot visit. We had a leadership training with a WASC. So this is specific to our student council, and it was just Zoom meetings, breakout sessions, more like that. We adopted a family this year from the Boys and Girls Club, and we love doing that every year. So we love going out to Target, Walmart, getting presents, and wrapping them. And then to continue our relationship with the Boys and Girls Club, we had a Q&A with them to build connections with the community. And then also something we did was positive messages throughout the school. So if you were to walk through the school, on the windows you could see different quotes or pictures, and even in the bathroom mirrors and in the hallways. Going green, very important at Oshkosh West this year. We have a Green Alliance and a Green Team. And so they're preparing for Green Week and trying to come up with new ways to stay green. And then we did a fundraiser for our staff members who are sadly battling cancer. So we did a coin drive, and t-shirts were given to the leading homeroom who turned in the most coins. And then another WASC conference. We had a faculty member, Ms. Cargus Myers, and a student, Jared. They actually won their position, so they are representing our region. And then our blood drive, this will be happening on April 16th. And so you can donate even if you have COVID-19 or the vaccine, and we're very excited to host another time. We had a virtual snow blast, kind of like our homecoming, dress-up days, we had a snowman contest, scavenger hunt. Our Oshkosh West dance team qualified for state. This is their third year in a row. We placed with 2 different routines, and we placed third. And then our swim team, they were undefeated during the season, won conference, sectional runner-ups, and then 6 girls were sent to state. And then 5th overall out of 29 teams. And Alec Hunter, first place at the state competition, our state champion. And I believe this is the first of Oshkosh West history. So very exciting. And that is all for Oshkosh West. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just like to interject that this is another action or activity that's been delayed for the last 13 months. Ordinarily, we would have a student rep from North and from West presenting at every single board meeting. And this is the first time this year we've done that because we felt we could do it safely. And so we thank you for coming and are delighted that you were able to join us. Thank you. All right, Dr. Cartwright, I think it's back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Herzog. Shapiro STEM Academy second graders are learning about economics by creating their own mini society. Students interviewed, brainstormed different classroom businesses or services, and had an opportunity to create and buy and sell goods or services. Thanks to the Oakwood PTO, the entire month of March Read Across America was celebrated by exposing students to diverse texts about people and places that are different from us. Each week, the school had different themes that ranged from families to influential people. For the final week, the PTO purchased a book for each classroom for each day of the week. There was deep conversation, rich learning experiences, and pure joy as a result. Congratulations to Ms. Horder for receiving the 2021 Women of Influence Award in the Mentor category. The third graders at Jefferson Elementary recently entered a construction zone. They were busy measuring and calculating the area and perimeter of various rectangles. They also clocked into work with hard hats and all the necessary tools to get the job done. Students in the WIT program have been busy. They're crossing content areas of art and science to build a volcano for hands-on learning, connecting social skills, social studies, and math in a hands-on classroom campout, and building life and career skills with science and helping the environment by collecting trash around their school. Community students in C2 have been working on creating press releases for their individual projects. These projects, spanning awareness, advocacy, philanthropy, and service, have been the focus for the students' semester of service. On Friday, April 16th, the entire Oshkosh community is invited to support the program's human trafficking project by dining out at Firehouse Subs. Each year, a favorite tradition at Carl Traeger Elementary School is PSC Bingo Night. This year, the school community held a virtual bingo night, and it was awesome. Our district is the proud recipient of nearly $100,000 grant from the Wisconsin Department of Health Services as a part of its COVID-19 vaccination community outreach initiative. Grant funds will be used to promote health equity and will allow the district to expand its community outreach efforts to marginalized populations as the COVID-19 vaccine becomes available. This unique outreach initiative aligns with the district's commitments to all means all, equity, and cultural responsiveness. And at this time, if Mr. Kamer will please come up.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So I'm going to be presenting on my COVID-19 school district report as I do every board meeting. To start out, I'm going to be reviewing the Winnebago County Weekly Data Summary. They put this out every week, and it covers the previous 2 weeks of data for our county. And they break it down by individual school districts, so they look at the case rate and the burden status for the geographical boundary of each district, as well as the county. So this report covered the dates of March 24th through April 6th. The case rate on the most recent report was 75.9, which placed the district in the moderately high burden category. This was a slight uptick from the previous 2 weeks. We had been trending down for quite a while, and we were in the mid-50s the previous week, so this is a little bit of a uptick, which isn't too surprising given the time frame we're at relative to spring break. And there's also been an uptick in the county. Winnebago County saw a 20% increase over the past week in terms of cases. So with that being said, the vaccinations continue. Now individuals in all age groups are eligible, which is good news for residents in our area to actually anybody age 16 or older. So students in the Oshkosh Area School District who are 16 or 17 years of age are also eligible to receive the vaccine. With that being said, they are only eligible to receive the Pfizer vaccine at this point, so if they are interested in being vaccinated, I would recommend contacting the clinic or site where they're planning on being vaccinated to make sure they have Pfizer before they schedule. along with that, each week the district calculates the case rate and the burden status for individual grade levels. For this past week, for the K2 grade level, we were in the low category. For grades 3 through 5, we were in the high category. For grades 6 through 8, we were in the moderately high category. And for grades 9 through 12, we were also in the high category. And that tends to fluctuate from week to week. Overall, though, we've started to see a slight uptick across the board. And that was reflected again in the data that we did for this week. Overall, though, we're still significantly below where we were earlier this school year. In terms of PPE, we continue to distribute masks and other PPE when the needs arise within each of our schools. So far this year, we've distributed over 39,000 masks to all of our schools. That includes both cloth masks, disposable masks, as well as both youth and child size. We still have well over 40,000 masks in stock. We've also distributed over 9,000 plastic barriers, as well as other PPE, including gloves, face shields, gowns, and thermometers. As a reminder, testing remains available at UW Oshkosh. They do the rapid antigen testing, but also PCR testing for individuals who have symptoms. And as another reminder, our COVID dashboard remains active on our website. And that was last updated this past Monday, April 12th. At that time, we had 10 active cases in the district. All of those cases were students at a total of 5 different schools. And at that time, we also had 211 active quarantines between staff and students. And that has brought our cumulative total on the year to 629 positive cases and over 8,000 quarantines. That concludes my report.
Any questions, Mrs. Carlin?
I'll take it,
Dr.
Dr.
Carlin.
Okay, yeah.
The other Dr.
I
Carlin.
just had a question. I saw the headlines about Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Obviously, 16-year-olds can't get that one. That one's on hold. But what's wrong with the other one? Why only Pfizer?
I believe the reason they can't receive the Moderna vaccine is because there are no trials done with individuals their age. The
Okay.
trials are done on individuals 18 and up for Moderna.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think
was just
Pfizer is
curious.
the only one that's being cleared to give under 18.
Correct.
Yeah,
They've been
okay.
cleared
Thank
to do
you.
it, yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Kemmer.
Thank you.
And thank you to the students, staff, families, and communities for continuing to wash hands and maintain distances and wear masks so that we can keep our schools and our classrooms open. All right. Do we have any committee reports this evening? Isabella, you're welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting, but if you have homework to do or something more important, you're welcome to.
They can go quite long.
depart.
No, sorry, I'll stay.
Wonderful. That's great. That's great. Are there any board committee reports this evening? I know Facilities and Finance is meeting tomorrow. Education has rescheduled from last week and rescheduled from the week before that, so they'll have a meeting one of these weeks. All right, so I believe then we can move on to the next agenda item, which is the non-agenda related public forum. My understanding is no one has signed up to present or speak this evening. So the next agenda item beyond that is the agenda-related public forum, and no one has signed up for that either. So we will move on then to the next agenda item, which is workshop. We actually have 3 workshops this evening. iReady update and demonstration. And we have Mr. Joel Burdick from the iReady Corporation. We don't always bring vendors in necessarily with curriculum, but we have done that numerous times with facilities. And because this has been in the news and because I attended a session last week virtually through the National School Board Association where iReady was mentioned as a tool to align goals in the district starting at the school board level, superintendent, and to the classroom level. I felt this was important. Plus, we've had some parents who have expressed concerns about the implementation of iReady in our district wondering why it's different in one school as compared to another. And so it seemed like this was a good opportunity to provide an overview of what is this program, how does it help student learning, and where do we go next? So Joel, I guess you're starting the presentation today. Thank you for being here.
Dr. Herzog, board members of the Oshkosh Area School District, thank you so much for having me. I've been asked to come in and provide an overview of what the Oshkosh School District has and how it works. So first of all, thank you for the partnership. We know it's been a challenging year across the country, and so just again, a profound thank you for the board members, the Oshkosh administrative team, Dr. Cartwright, for your continued work to help drive student outcomes. When you think about iReady, I want you to think about iReady as a blended approach to learning. So we start by assessing students, and we take those assessment results. We have teachers interpret them, but we also take those results and align it to a personalized instructional pathway. Okay? In addition to that, we take those results and we align them to our teacher-led resources. So currently, the Oshkosh School District uses the iReady diagnostic, the iReady personalized instruction, and what we refer to as the teacher toolbox. And the teacher toolbox contains all of our teacher-led resources. So it's a blended approach to instruction of computer-led, but also teacher-led. Just to give you an idea of what how the assessment works, it's adaptive. And so what I mean by that is when a student takes the iReady diagnostic, it has the ability to assess at their grade level, below their grade level, and above their grade level. And that's how we're able to identify if students have needs from a previous grade level, if they're an advanced learner, we're able to identify what those skills for next steps of instruction. In reading, we're measuring 5 reading domains. Within those domains are what we call sub-level skills. You'll see this on the reporting as we go live into the software. Within math, we're looking at these 4 domains, and again, within these domains are subdomains and specific skills that teachers will see on the iReady reports. So at this point, I'm going to exit out of here. And we will go ahead and log into the iReady platform. I'm logging in as a teacher. So this is through the lens of a teacher. There's a couple of, when you look at this platform, these tiles is really where the teachers live. So as students are taking the diagnostic, they live in this first tile. They're able to live monitor where they're at in the assessment. The second tile are the diagnostic results. Teachers spend a lot of their time in this tile. Students are done taking the assessment. Now we get to analyze where we can support them. And then the third tile is the iReady personalized instruction. And so teachers also live in this tile to monitor how students are doing in their online instructional pathway. Okay. So we are going to start in the second tile. There's 2 options for teachers. They can have iReady put them into instructional groupings, or they can look at each individual child's results. For today's purposes, we're going to take a look at a class. All of the students in that class, this is a demo account. This is not Oshkosh data, by the way. And we will focus in, we'll take a look at a 3rd grade class. And we will pretend that we're in the fall. We're just coming back into school. We've assessed our students, and we're able to see where our students are measuring up. So the first piece of information is in this pie chart. As a teacher, it helps me identify number of students that are considered on grade level, number of students that are considered up to a grade level behind, and then students that are 2+ grade levels. If you go to the right side of the screen, We break it down a little bit more, and we now break it down by domain. So teachers, again, can look at these domains and see I've got 10 students who are 2+ grade levels behind in phonics, okay? That's a foundational reading skill. As I scroll down, you can see all of the students are listed here. Across each of these domains, everything is color-coded so teachers can easily identify which specific domains students might need support in. Okay? So I can do this for all of my students as I scroll down. So I know that they're struggling in some key domains. So there's, again, 2 instructional resources that teachers have at their disposal. One being the personalized instruction, and one being the teacher-led resources. I will first dive into the personalized online instruction so you can see how teachers would look at this information. Making my second click into the software, we're looking at a student, Brian Doe. And so as a teacher, the way that we interpret this is the green shaded area represents grade level standards, attainment. This green line represents proficiency. iReady also automatically assigns 2 growth targets for each child in the district. Typical being considered average, stretch considered an ambitious. And so what we would say in this particular student's case, proficiency is way up here, their ambitious goal is set here. This may be a 2-year story for this particular child. Is it realistic to expect that they would reach proficiency in 1 year? With our data, it might be a 2-year story. So now the focus becomes on which areas do we need to help support. So on the right side of your screen is where we can start to dive in and see, okay, phonics, comprehension of both literature and informational text. As I continue to scroll down, you can see all of our domains are here. I can highlight these. And on the left is where we would say, students, these are the skills they can do. On the right is where we could focus our next steps for instruction, particularly in phonics. So Brian would benefit from decoding the same multisyllabic words multiple times. Okay, so I will pause here. There's a couple of resources at teachers' fingertips by looking at individual student data. Number one being these tools for instruction. These are lessons anywhere from 10 to 15 to 30-minute lesson strategies that teachers can pull with this particular student. As I scroll back to the top, switching from her diagnostic results to her online personalized instruction. So this lesson pathway was developed from the fall diagnostic results. Her lowest performing domain, or the student's lowest performing domain, was in comprehension. So ideally, the iReady software serves up comprehension lessons. The student starts working through these, they're being successful. Phonics was the next domain that we needed to support this particular student with. So you can see we start bringing in phonics lessons. Okay. Now, as the student works through, you can see their overall progress. They started the year below this green shaded area, which represents grade level. They started their online instruction at a mid-first grade level, because that's where the assessment identified where this student needed support. And so they started receiving those lessons in comprehension. We go through a full school year. You can see now that the student is particularly using or engaged with the lessons that are now on grade level and above grade level. The last thing that I would point out is at the very top, the third side of the cube, the teacher-led resources. Underneath the Assess and Teach, I go to the Teacher Toolbox. I will click on Math, since we've been on Reading. Teachers have access to all K-8 teacher-led resources, so they can pull any grade level resources that they want. So the diagnostic, the way when it identifies a third grader needing work in first grade or a third grader who's advanced that may be ready for some fourth grade content, teachers can go in and grab any content from any grade level that they want. Everything is aligned by standards. Teachers have their teacher book here, and then this is the student work text. Okay. So there's two metrics we look for in a good implementation. Time on task. We recommend 30 to 50 minutes a week for the online instruction, 30 to 50 minutes a week for the online instruction per subject. And we would like to see a passing rate of 70% or higher. With these two metrics is where our research pointed to positive student outcomes. So at this point, that concludes the quick presentation of the iReady system. Thank you so much, board members of the Oshkosh Area School District, for your time. I'm welcome to take some questions.
Does anyone have a question or a comment? I'm curious as to approximately how much time would it take for a teacher to get up to speed in terms of being comfortable using this with the classroom?
Thank you for the question.
Welcome.
We typically would like to deliver professional development about 3 times over the course of the school year.
Okay.
From the demonstration and just going through the software, we feel that it's super intuitive. Now, we do know something as simple as the number of clicks teachers have to make determines whether or not they use it. Just being honest, the more clicks they have to make, the less likely they are to use the data. And so we try to make that interface as user-friendly as possible. A couple of clicks and we're down to student data. But the professional development, typically we would like to see 3 touch points over the course of the school year.
And could you estimate approximately how much time would be involved in each of those sessions?
Yeah, so our sessions are typically designed for 3 hours.
Okay.
Now, obviously this year has been a challenge. We've had to pivot and deliver a lot of virtual sessions. And so logistically it becomes it's a challenge for districts to schedule professional development this year, absolutely. And we've had to pivot as a company. We can't sit on a computer for 3 hours and talk at teachers. It just doesn't, it's not a productive way. And so we've had to get creative and really chunk it into smaller sections. So maybe it's 3 1-hour sessions over the course of 3 days instead of a 1 3-hour sitting if we're on site with a school or district personnel. So each of those recommended touch points, those 3 touch points, typically consists with 3 hours of content each.
Mrs. Szilagyi?
Yes, if you're done with your thoughts.
I am, thank you.
All right. I just wonder, and this is probably more for someone behind you, but how this fits in with our workshop-based learning. So we know that students need 30 to 50 minutes on iReady in order for it to be effective, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you said. So how does that fit into a week with the workshop learning that we do in the classroom at the earlier grade levels?
Well, that's part of it. It's been competing with some of the other things. So part of the literacy components that we're doing, and so sometimes you have to choose. If you're going to choose iReady, it's going to be in place of one of those other components.
Yeah.
That's the same question I had, was that 30 to 15 minutes of instruction in the classroom time, or is that homework? So do they go home, or is that in their classroom? And does that, yeah.
You're a little bit of an audience plan right now. So
Oh.
if you hold
hold on for the next part.
Yeah, I figured, yeah,
We can
okay.
help
Yeah, I was
with
gonna
all
wait
that.
until one of you guys got up there. I figured you'd know. No offense, Bill, but I didn't know if you knew that.
And this was just for, I thought I saw a slide that said it was just for 3rd through 8th grade. Is that correct? The diagnostics? That's in the next one? Okay, so we should just
Yep.
hold our
I'll
questions.
hold.
We can hold.
Could you show us an example of a lesson or activity? I'm not sure I'm using the correct terminology. So we identify Barb needing help in phonics. And you can, it looks like you can zero in more specifically on what she needs. And so if
Oh, like what the homework assignment would actually be.
So how does this translate then into the teacher designing the instruction for the student to work on those skills that they need more time with?
I'm not entirely sure I understand the question.
Okay.
I think if I might know what you're saying, is you're wondering how the teacher assigns the assignment to the student.
Yes.
Because
Okay.
I have a child who's
Thank you.
assigned.
Great.
Well done, good translation.
Thank you, thank you.
services there.
Thanks, I'll try to
I have
translate.
other issues too, obviously. Thank you.
Besides phonics.
So the flexibility of iReady is that while the diagnostic automatically assigns this lesson pathway, there is a second pathway called the teacher assigned pathway. And so while this pathway may be focusing on previous grade level opportunities that students need support or an advanced learner, this pathway is the individualized pathway for each student. So wherever they need that support. The other option is for teachers to assign their own lessons. So if there's a lesson that is synchronous with that day's core instruction, teachers can assign an additional iReady lesson that would help support or supplement the core instructional module of what was covered that day.
So the blue part, is that the assignment?
It is.
Okay, so then the teacher goes in and that's just, those are what you should do, and you just click on one, do one, and then the next one, and keep going and just watch the progress.
This is the student's pathway.
Right, okay, so they just
So the
follow-
teacher does nothing here.
Right, but they,
Mhm.
will they have to go in and grab
Okay.
the assignment to give the student? No, the student logs in and then they just keep, that's what I think I was, yeah, thank you.
So this is,
Got it.
again, this is the teacher lens. So I get visibility into each student's pathway. But when a student logs in, it gives them the lesson that is next up in this pathway. And
Got
then
it.
there's another
Okay.
option for the teacher assign. Mhm.
That's what I was, that's awesome, okay. I was confused, obviously, I thought it was, the teacher goes in, they grabs that student,
I-
then gives
I
it to
did
them.
too.
I didn't know it was actually the student going and grabbing it. Okay.
Mr. Burdick, a couple questions. Is this, so as the students are participating in this, is it something that they have to do at school, or is this something that they can do at home?
It is used both ways, in school and at home.
And is it possible for you to demonstrate the groupings for us? So based off the diagnostic results and how the program groups our students?
Yes, so here we're back looking at the whole class and each individual child's results. The other option that teachers have is what we call an instructional grouping report. So there's more to grouping students than just scores, right?
Right.
So with that though, this helps us identify where we can meet maybe in small groups. So students in grouping 1 are the most students in need. Like they have the biggest gaps. Up to students in group 5 who are probably already on grade level or above. And so as a teacher, it allows me to be a little bit more efficient about how I intervene with these particular students. So you could go to students in grouping 1. The students in this group are below grade level in phonics, and also very limited in their vocabulary.
So to also group them by students who have similar things they need to work on too.
Correct. So as I scroll down, you can see the individual phonics and the vocabulary skills that as a teacher you could potentially start to work on with this group of students. And then on the right are those mini lesson strategies that as a teacher you can pull those. These are tangible lessons that you would pull, and it is explicit instruction, in this case on phonics. Mm-hmm.
Do you mind clicking on one of them?
And then at the very end, there is a check for understanding and a word list. Just as a reminder, if I'm pulling this lesson as a teacher, it's most likely in their instructional pathway as well. So.
Mrs. Salaji.
I was gonna ask if it's possible for you to show us what it looks like when the student logs in. No, that's all right. I know what it looks like, because my.
I don't.
I've seen it, so I thought it might be helpful for other people to see it.
Yeah, I did not bring a
That's
student
okay.
login.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's fascinating.
I know that our students, our families, our staff have had an incredible 13 months. And I know that our people work extraordinarily hard. Long hours that the public doesn't often see. For example, some mornings when my dog Hank and I are out walking and we're passing Emmeline Cook around 6:30 in the morning, there are staff members pulling into the driveway and waving, or some classrooms that already have lights on. So I know that people are there long hours, and I see cars parked outside the school on Good Friday and other days when school is not in session. So we know that. At the same time, I can see a great value in this once a staff member becomes comfortable with using the program to individualize and help those students show progress and growth in those areas in which they're behind. We often talk about the summer slide in education. We're concerned about what students lose over the summer in terms of learning. And we've also heard the term COVID slide. What have students missed? And for me, one of the big concerns I've had all year long in terms of doing our best to get our students and staff safely back into our classrooms has been our kindergarten and our first grade students, because they spend so much of their time on reading. And we have to get this right, and we have to make sure that those students don't fall behind. So I could see a great use of this in summer school as well as during the regular year to help students make progress. Am I in the ballpark on that?
You are very much in the ballpark.
Thank
Yes.
you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Burdick, we thank you for your time and walking us through this. I hope all of you have found this as informative as I have, and we appreciate your working with our district to benefit our students. So thank you.
Board members, thank you so much for the opportunity to share. I clearly don't get to do this a lot, so this is a new experience for me. It's the first time I've been face-to-face in a year, so I'm excited to get back into the school buildings working with staff and students. And thank you again, Dr. Cartwright and the Oshkosh administrative team for their continued work, and thank you.
Very good. Thank you for your time. And we have Dr. Brown and Ms. Conrad and a group of supporting personnel.
Right, so I will get us started. And actually, I'm Julie Conrad, I'm the Director of Curriculum and Assessment.
Kim Brown, Director of Learning.
And we have with us this evening, we have Tommy Anfinson, who is an instructional support teacher from South Park Middle School and Webster Middle School. Lisa Duxbury, our 6 through 12 literacy coordinator. Doug Zarling, our 4K through 5 literacy coordinator. Julie Holmes, our 4K through 5 math coordinator, and Jan Wagner, who is our 612 math coordinator. So they're here to be able to answer questions about implementation, etc. So we'll go ahead and get started with an overview. As we do with all of our presentations, we like to track this back to our strategic plan. And where we're really focused as we're discussing iReady implementation, we're really talking about student learning and improving student learning for all to ensure that we're college, career, and community ready. As referenced, and Dr. Herzog, I believe you referenced this when we were talking about different metrics, iReady and the iReady diagnostic does help us drill down all the way from going from level 2 all the way down to level 6 so that we are at the parent, student, and staff data level, but it also pulls us up into level 3 so that we can be making district-wide decisions as well.
Okay, and so tonight we're talking about iReady, which is just one assessment and one tool. So for people who might not know, who are in the community or families who are watching, iReady is one assessment. We also use it in conjunction with Advantage Math Recovery. We use developmental reading assessments. We have our Bridges assessments. We have Fondas and Pinnell. I'm missing one right now. But anyway, you get the idea. We have, and PALS, which is a very important one at the 4K2 level. And then we also have a variety of tools also in the kit. So iReady is one of them, and then we also have others. Some of them are similar to iReady instruction in that they are computer-based, adaptive, such as Dreambox. And you know we have Sonday as another alternative, and then a variety of different literacy and math pieces that we use in our multi-tiered approach. So I share that because Joel did such a beautiful job of sharing what iReady is all about that we don't need to talk about any of that. All right, so in just kind of some historical background with iReady, in 2017-18 is when we started piloting it. The major piece we needed was to help support placement of students, and so we looked at the math diagnostic at 5th grade and 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and then also a literacy skills diagnostic. The following year, we added to that, we expanded to grades 3 and 4 for the math diagnostic, and then we started up to pilot the literacy piece at one of our elementary schools and also at the middle schools. And then we also looked at it for math skills and literacy skills. So we're breaking this up to pre-COVID and beyond. So pre-COVID, we were using iReady Diagnostic for math and literacy for grades 3 through 8. We were doing it 2 to 3 times a year, depending on where the students scored on there. And it was really to assess where our students are at. It was to help us, our teachers, design for universal instruction and differentiation. You know that when we have multiple data points, we are better informed about where our students are at, and that's important as well. It replaced our end-of-the-year assessment and allowed for reflection on that grade level standards. And then the final piece is we did purchase iReady instruction for both math skills and special education. So then the iReady Safer at Home came about, and as you know, in March when we left, we thought, oh, this is like a 2 to 3 week gig. Surprise.
Remember that?
And so this is where, Joel reached out and said, hey, we want to help as an iReady team. We are here for you, and we are going to offer you free iReady instruction. So we were able to utilize that for any of our students who took the diagnostic in grades 3 through 8, because you had to have the diagnostic. At that time, they did not have the ability to give a diagnostic at home, and so it was only for 3-8 at that time. You can go on. All right, and that led us to the August of 2020 when we came to see you to talk about how we could utilize iReady going into this year, especially knowing that we were going to be shifting in and out of models. And so in the blue there is what the board approved when we came to you. We asked for iReady instruction to help supplement our universal instruction for virtual learning. We use that diagnostic then for math and literacy. As we've stated before,
But the really important piece was the iReady instruction and how that looked. So in face-to-face and in virtual, it really was to supplement our universal instruction for students who needed more practice, support, or extension, and that was assigned by the teacher or MyPath or prescribed by iReady. In hybrid model 3, that's where people really, really utilized iReady because it was so difficult when you're a teacher and you're teaching 5 days a week, but you know you have students who are at home and you can't do everything. And so that's where iReady really came, I felt like, to help support our teachers in a big way.
And so I'd like to invite Tom Amundsen up, and he is going to tell you about how South Park had been using iReady towards school improvement.
Thank you. Hello and good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. Just going to talk a little bit about how at South Park we used iReady, and kind of going back, the first thing we always look at was our forward data. The one thing about the Wisconsin Forward Test is it's a test that's given once a year. We give it in the spring, don't get the results until summer usually, and it's really hard to sometimes be able to act upon those results because the next school year happens and those students have moved to the next grade level. So in the fall of 2019, when we started giving the iReady diagnostic, it gave us an opportunity to compare the results that we saw in the forward exam to results on a different assessment, I guess you could say. So the graph that I put up on the top there is of the 6th grade at the time. They're our current 8th graders. Just the data there, and it's showing what's the percentage of students who are advanced, proficient, basic, and below. And we were really trying to figure out, how could we help with our school writing goal, which kind of rolls up into the district writing goal, and what were some areas that we could really focus on. And with a diagnostic, and thank you to Mr. Burdick, I don't know if he's still here, there he is. He helped lay a lot of the groundwork for me here, so some of the things that I talk about are probably going to be a little easier to follow. But the one thing that we noticed in our data, and this was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, is that a lot of our students' vocabulary and comprehension is where their struggles were. And then when we look up at the Wisconsin Forward data, the basic and below basic, there's really nothing that stands out. But the two that are the highest percentage of not proficient was vocabulary and reading key ideas and details. I know it's small, so I apologize. So as a school leadership team, we were trying to think of a plan, something that we could do to help support the universal instruction across all content areas. So we used iReady, and thankfully he talked about instructional groupings. The one thing that we noticed too across all 3 grade levels was that a majority of our students fell in grouping 3, which those are the students who struggle with vocabulary and comprehension. So what we did on the left-hand side, as a team, we went through and we got resources for staff to look up research, instructional strategies on vocabulary and close reading, so that starting 2nd semester, their PPGs were going to be either, we asked them to focus their PPG on either vocabulary or close reading.
Tom, what is a PPG?
Oh, sorry.
For all of us non.
Yes.
I was just going to ask someone.
And it's not a basketball term, so it's a professional practice goal. And so along with SLOs, teachers have to have a PPG, which the SLO is the student learning objective. So we thought, it was our first year using iReady, and we thought we could just focus on that grouping 3. And as Joel showed, there were some resources in there. When you click on the grouping suggestions, I think I can do that. Hopefully I won't mess anything up here. What we found is that they talk about high utility academic language and meaningful word parts like suffixes, prefixes. And so we thought, how can we help not just literacy, this isn't a job of literacy teachers, because in order to make sure that all of our students are college, career, and community ready in all subject areas, these are things that they need to have. So we looked at these and we said, what are some things that you see in your content area that you can pull into your class and help students with vocabulary or with close reading strategies? So it was to complement or further strengthen the universal instruction and the board adopted curriculum for each content area.
Excuse me, I may have missed something. Did you define closed reading?
Close reading?
Closed reading.
Close reading.
Close reading. So, I don't know if Lisa, you want to give it, I can give you a definition, but you'll.
Close reading is a process, and there are millions of them, literally millions. If you Google it, everybody has a close reading process.
Okay.
The one that we tend to use in the district, we are big fans of Carlene Beers and Robert Probst, because they use signposts, so they're teaching kids what to look for, and then they teach kids how to think about something once they notice it. So it's really a process for reading text and digging deeper into text in order to analyze it. And that we've done this forever, but the term close reading came about in the 2010 Common Core State Standards.
Okay. Many years ago, I was certified as both a reading teacher and a reading specialist, but it was before.
C-L-O-Z-E.
Yes,
Oh.
right. So,
Yeah.
thank you. Before 2008, we'll
Okay.
leave it at that.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Anfinson.
So what Tom discussed was how from a school lens, we were using the instructional grouping data, the features within iReady, along with the resources to really look universally at how we are directing school improvement planning and pushing student learning like at a school level. So that was a great example, so we really appreciate, and that's just one example, but a good one from South Park Middle School. So going to this next part, that told you a little bit about how we were using diagnostics, etc. But I think a big piece is that iReady instruction, the online learning, the MyPath or the teacher assigned piece, it's like, how have we been using it? So when you take a look at the 2020-21 school year, we first have to take a look at the data because we have chosen all of our kids go to our resources through something called ClassLink. So all of our parents and students out there, you open your Chromebook, you go in there and you access everything through ClassLink. When we do that, students have to be rostered or have to be put together in a certain way so that you can access all of your content. So when you go into iReady, we have total rostered K through 12 within the resource, 6,000 students, 6,260 students. So that's who's opened up and available to either take a diagnostic or use MyPath, those instruction pieces. Those are who's all rostered. iReady users are students that have engaged in iReady instruction through MyPath or their teacher has assigned it. So whenever you see in the data, iReady users, those are kids that actually use the online instruction. We have high school students rostered in there, and you can see our number at 238 and 484 so that it's available. So those are students that may be in specific programming to do that. And then E-Academy students, they're rostered to be able to do the diagnostic. We did not expect them to use iReady instruction. And then the last piece is our case students from the very beginning. We've been using Dreambox since 2012. That's a district adopted resource back in 2012, and it actually complements and goes with Bridges. And so we had planned from the beginning that was going to be used as supplemental instruction and not used there. So when we look at how many total iReady instruction users we were planning on, right from the beginning, you can see our bottom numbers there, 5,136 and 3,487. So from there, I think you probably got buggy looking at the data pieces, but it was kind of fun putting all this together. So when you start to take a look at this, you can see by grade level who's all rostered. So in other words, who can go in and be able to take the diagnostic when it's open at any time, who is an actual user, who year to date has been using iReady, The cream color, the yellow color is in reading, and the blue color is math. And you'll notice there'll be dashes or lines there because once again, those areas we were not anticipating nor did we expect for them to use. With that said, as we have gotten further into the school year, we've been where teachers are seeing the need, we are utilizing that resource. So you can see specifically like at 9th grade, we have some math needs, et cetera, that we are using, and we are expanding that based on student need.
So when you're in 8th grade and you go into high school, you're out of iReady, but if one of your teachers see that it would be beneficial to you, then they link you back into it.
Correct.
And then you can use it.
Yeah, because you have to remember that 8th grade and 8th grade Common Core Standards, so 8th grade in our college preparatory mathematics,
Right.
or within there is considered pre-algebra.
Right.
And so going in, it is appropriate for our 9th graders to use that to build skills.
Yep, excellent.
And supplement. So then going on here further into usage data, Joel actually had talked about this, but what we broke this down into is we had really intended it to be used differently as we transition through models. We didn't know like how the models were going to work out, but this is how they were. So you can see our overall usage rate, you can see with reading and math when it comes to iReady instruction. Then you can see within the models, and the very last column is our average lesson time on task per student. It's a measurement. You may be asking, and I know Joel demonstrated, what's your average pass rate or complete, pass rate I think would be the thing for that. And we do hover right around the 70% mark. I believe when I checked today, I was at 77% for this week, that's students that are engaged in there. So we can see that. The big thing to notice here is that when we went into this in August, and as we worked with teachers, as we worked with schools, this is where Kim and I, and as we worked with our coordinators and our instructional support teachers, is that these were the expectations that we set out going into this so that we could get started. That everybody 3 through 8, whether you were in E-Academy or not, we were giving that diagnostic. K through 2 students would participate in the assessment for reading only, so we could be supporting for supplementary learning. And K2, we had all along known that we were going to use Dreambox from the beginning.
And Dreambox into iReady, it's a smooth transition?
There is
Separate.
It's separate.
They're right, separate, but so when they're in K through 2 and then they go to 3rd and they go on iReady.
Yeah, and it's really about what is going to complement the curriculum. So Bridges is our
right.
curriculum, and so
Bridge, right.
Dreambox flows beautifully with
With
that.
Bridges.
And Julie Holmes could.
Yep, because we've been teaching the same grade level standards, and
Yes.
Dreambox feeds to those same grade level
Yes.
standards. When they get to iReady, the diagnostic looks different than what the assessment looks like in Dreambox, because it's just geared more
Right,
toward.
but it's right in
It's
line.
little.
with-
But because it's that grade level, those grade level standards, they're totally prepared. It's not like it's something from.
It goes right in, awesome, okay.
Yeah, so it's not
Good.
connected, but yes, it absolutely.
Yeah, it's not connected, but it flows well.
Yes.
Thank you,
Definitely
okay.
flows together great.
And so you've seen these slides before because I believe you had talked about COVID slide. We had looked at this right away during
yeah.
the falls within reading. And then we also compared fall to fall in math where we said with the slide, we didn't see as much slide as there was slide,
Right.
but we didn't see as much as we were anticipating. So we did use iReady in our diagnostics for that. So professional development and training. Being a large school district, and I believe we're at 11 right now, I think we're at 11, we typically use for any large-scale implementation a train-the-trainer model. We have fabulous instructional support teachers, and we use them many times as trainers within all types of our curricular resources. So our IST reading literacy, math, and curriculum we're trained to work with educators at their buildings. They were involved in the sessions that we have up there, along with the other pieces that what Joel didn't talk about is that iReady Central is also a teacher resource that contains all of the directions, everything, videos, etc., of how you can use the resource. And so our instructional support teachers worked with our educators in elementary math and literacy team, or middle school ISTs have worked with grade level teams, the teacher teams to work through this because what's beautiful about it is all the resources are like built right into those pieces to be able to work with our teams. So then we also, because originally when we had looked at iReady, special education was a key area, since you have students in your classrooms that could have especially if they're in a specific special education programming, they may have a wide range of levels. And so we know we wanted to train our teachers on my path, how do you support, how do you get students in a broad range going in there. And so we have that inside Canvas. Then also with quantifying COVID slide, after we got done with our diagnostic, we worked with our principals, we trained our principals, our ISTs or PSTs, and our coordinators on how to quantify COVID slide using iReady data as a starting point to take a look at that and start to go in there, how are you going to use this? So that answers, Dr. Herzog, one of your questions was about why is this being implemented differently at different schools? The thing is, different schools have different needs, and since this is a supplement and a tool, our principals and our teachers, our ISTs, as they're working with teams, they were really using this in a prescriptive, like in a way where we can take a look at your data, prescribe how is this going to work, how is this going to work into, like, are we in Model 3, are we in Model 4, are we in Model 2, and what does that look like? So that's some of the differences that you probably have seen, is because we are looking at addressing specifically the needs inside of a school. Then we've been supporting and using the data and monitoring with our ISTs and other building level leaders. And then we are looking at, we do monitor data monthly in meetings with our CIA leadership by building. So, and I'll go through this. This is just part of the quant slide, but all of our pieces flow together, because I think you know we also use EduClimber, which is a data warehouse that helps us pull together. And we walked through, iReady pulls directly into EduClimber, so we can use it to put together data walls. How did your student scale score move? Not just within iReady, but looking at all of our other data resources that we have pulled in for students. We also used and worked with using, Joel didn't talk about, but there was a new prerequisite report that went back and looked at what skills may have been missing or quote unquote skipped. I don't know if they were skipped, but during that time, we took a look at it, and we can choose one to dive deeper in and then use the resources and tools to address those. And then this also has prerequisite groupings, which are very similar to the instructional groupings that we talked about. We went in there and we took a look at where are students that were in need of in-depth review. I have this blurred out because this is actual Oshkosh School District data. And then this is also actual because we also looked at our instructional groupings, going through there and saying, you know, here we are in the fall, and where are our students, and how do we click in there? How do we go and look, and how do we go deeper looking in those teacher resources? Once you go in there, oh, this is what they need. Click on that resource, take a bigger look in there. But the bigger key to this is a great tool to supplement either My Path or Teacher Assigned, where a student can independently work on this. But it also points you in a starting point to say, where in our universal curriculum and our universal resources can we make connections back? So that's the other piece, is that in all of this, what we don't want to lose is our universal curriculum and our universal pieces, because it's like we can say that they're slide, but at the same time, we have to be moving forward. So how do we do that balance between moving forward and also supporting, giving students what they need? So moving forward, here's what we know for sure. We absolutely want to continue using the iReady Diagnostic 3.8 because that's always been our plan. We know for sure we want to continue iReady instruction because this has always been our plan. What we don't know yet, and we want to see, and our teachers want to see, we want to see the spring diagnostic data. We want to see where we end up landing before we go into where are we going to go from here. Plus, in this year, when you implement things, it's not a typical year. So, but we need to know more. But this is what we know for sure.
Can you go back one slide?
Sure.
Julie? So do we use the literacy at all yet then, the literacy part of it?
Yeah,
Because
right-
this is,
Yeah, right now we do, yes.
Math and literacy.
but that's the diagnostics, but not the instruction. So we use it for diagnostic, but do some teachers use it for instruction at all?
So this is like moving for, this is what we're, like, we weren't sure like where we were going with
Okay.
with our questions tonight.
Right,
And
right,
so
right.
what we're knowing is, this is what we know for sure going
Okay.
into next year. What we
Gotcha,
don't
okay.
know is we haven't, this is how we've been using it.
Right.
But the question is we need to know more. There needs to be an evaluation. We need to talk to teachers. We need to talk,
Right,
we
to
need
see
to,
what they
we need to
think of it,
work
how they-
with
yeah.
our coordinators and say, where do we go from here?
That was one of
Right?
my questions is, what do teachers feel about this program? And is it a supplement? Is it good? Is it easy to, all of those questions? Because it is a newer program, so I was just, yeah. That was one of my questions, so obviously it's moving forward.
Mrs. Salaji.
Yeah, I was just going to review, so when you listed all the assessments, if I remember correctly, if students have passing scores in the iReady diagnostics, they then do not take the AVMR or the DRA. Is that correct?
Yeah, so, yeah, depending on where they score in iReady for like literacy, then they don't take the DRA because we already know that they're at grade level and we can proceed from there.
Okay. And then if they do happen to take all of these assessments, that all of the data from all of them is collected together in EduPlan.
It is.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we get awesome reports where we can match up exactly where the data points
I
are.
love
And what else has
EduClimber.
been
I would
really
be in there all
exciting
day.
to see is how that data matches. And so my iReady data matches my AVMR data, and I can, so it's.
Pinpoint.
Yeah, and it just validates each other. It feels like, oh yeah, that showed the same thing, and so to have that, those multiple data points.
Right.
So
So
question that tells us where they're digging deeper.
Yeah.
So some of the testing overlaps, but if they do well on one, then we won't overlap. But if they aren't, then we overlap just to make sure and see points.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
And also keep in mind that some things are like state required. So for
Yes.
example, every student for K through 2 has to have an early literacy screen or early literacy assessment. And so K through 2, that's PALS, and we
Right.
have to do that.
Yeah, and same with the forward
Right.
exam. Sorry, Liz, I didn't mean to interrupt. your
Yeah,
question.
no, I think we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask the question about the teachers is what sort of feedback have we got from them about how this connects back to their universal curriculum? Because I know it can feel overwhelming as a teacher to have a new thing you have to learn every year.
Yeah.
Especially after this year, I think that might be a feeling that they have. So I think that covers all my questions.
I can see the challenge of looking to gather data, meaningful data, in a year that we've had, in these last 13 months we've had. So I think it would be equally challenging to say this program is not good or we don't want to use it
Right.
because it's not a normal year or situation. So it looks to me like we need more time to more fully evaluate, and where we've had students in Model 4 instructional learning, Model 3, Model 2, with modifications, it's just very different. I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask. In a traditional teacher education program, we know that our elementary teachers receive coursework in teaching everything, all content areas, and of course they get instruction in the teaching of reading. How many courses or how many credits would a new teacher coming out of one of our four-year institutions, how many credits might they have taken in the teaching of reading and in the teaching of math or math content?
I'm not sure I can totally answer that because it would vary
Sure.
depending on the institution. To my knowledge, almost every one of them has at least 6 credits in reading.
Okay.
Usually, there's also another 3 credits in language arts.
Okay.
But depending on the institution, they might realign that. And
group some of them together. So it's really hard to answer that question on a, case-by-case basis, but there are DPI guidelines to the institutions on what
Okay.
they have to cover. I don't think it really counts credits at that level,
Okay.
but it does say these are the things that they would know. And right now, I think, all of our teachers, anyone coming out of teacher education does have to take a test specifically on the teaching of reading called the Foundations of Reading. And the reason I hesitate on that a little is because it's right now, there is some legislative action going on around that because of the difficulty of hiring teachers, especially at this time. And they're looking at possibly modifying that for some people. But generally, all teachers have to take a test now that shows that they have that foundational knowledge.
I'm somewhat familiar with that test because when I was at UW Oshkosh in an alternative licensing program and working with teachers, maybe a secondary teacher who wanted an elementary school license and therefore they had to take that test, many of them found that difficult. It was a very strenuous test. And then I was appointed to a DPI committee called the Professional Standards Council, and the role of that committee is to advise the state superintendent on licensing. And I know that our committee has looked at that from the standpoint that not all special education teachers must pass the FORT. And the reason that was provided was because there have been some assertions about that test being biased. And so people on the committee have said, well, if it's biased for special ed teachers, it's probably biased for anyone who needs to take that test. So that's been a controversy in terms of what to do with that. But my understanding with the special ed teacher educators is that they need to show that they've taken coursework in the areas of reading, probably that you've suggested, Mrs. Zarling, that are required in the DPI rules or regs or whatever they call them. So I know there is some assessment involved, whether it's that they took coursework and passed or that they passed the FORT. But
And I will say the requirements for special ed are different than the requirements
Yes.
for regular classroom instruction.
Okay. Okay.
So in general, in the past, the requirements for special ed in the area of reading have been lower than those for classroom teachers. But there's, these are things that are constantly being looked at the universities as well. And
Oh, yeah.
some universities hold higher standards than what are required as well.
I know that we've approved, thank you, Mrs. Zarling. I know that we've approved a reading curriculum which provides a lot of direction for our teachers. Does our curriculum provide resources to teachers for differentiating instruction and access to current resources?
Because we have the
Would you like secondary or would you like elementary? So we
Both.
can start with
Start either
whichever
way.
way.
Either way. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, just for you.
When we talk about resources, I would say we can always use more. Because our kids are individuals, and one of the things that we need to do is make sure that we meet the needs of all of our kids. So there's never enough. I mean, whether it's replacing books that have worn out or updating our libraries to be more inclusive and provide better examples of the real world. We always talk about books offering, the common terms are windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors. So we want kids to be able to see themselves in the books that they read. We want them to see others. And we also want books to help them make those connections. And that's where that comes from. So one of the major resources for the teaching of reading is books. We never have enough books, I'll be honest, to meet the needs of all the kids. As far as basic resources, we're pretty well set there. For example, if you're in a kindergarten classroom and you're teaching phonics, you have tons of resources. In fact, one of the biggest concerns teachers have is how do I keep this all organized and where do I store it? Because there is so much there for them to use. So, it's a hard question to answer because it all depends.
So we're heavy on certain areas but lacking in other areas.
Right.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
I guess I just wanted to go back to that question I asked about how this fits with our workshop-based learning. I don't know if there is an answer now, or?
So it depends on what we're talking about, like for reading or for math. And so when you talk about workshop, we have to remember that it's different than what we used to think of in elementary schools as centers, you know, where like students rotate through things. Because within a workshop model, it's really about purposeful time that's structured and planned for and I'm going to get the 7 on the spot. I'm going to get the different pieces like mixed up. But anyway, so within there's purposely planned within those. So as Kim had stated before, when a teacher's deciding for like iReady to put in the supplemental instruction, they're trying to decide, where do I fit this in there, because I'm going to have to slide one thing back to be able to slide this forward. And yes, can the student do it at home? But here's the other thing we know about from Model 4 and Model 3 is how much support is there at home? Is that really going to get done at home? Like how are we going to monitor?
Well, if it's an area they're lacking, you want to do that at school, not at home, because they need help with that area.
Right, and so there's like the balance between it. So then you come into the math piece, and so there's very specific ways that it's set up, like in
During workplaces.
Workplaces, thank you. During workplaces, I'm losing my words here. During workplaces, etc. So once again, you have to decide: are we going to slide something back from the universal? And so sometimes the answer is yes. Yes, we are, because that's going to be able to fit in there. But it's not once again, it's not one size fits all. And the key thing that we always talk about is, where does the teacher's autonomy and the teacher's professional judgment when it comes to what my kids need in front of me, where does that come in?
And how they learn too. Right.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. And that's why you have to have a range of resources to be able to say what's going to fit for that child, because it's not one size fits all. A term that we're using right now is designing learning to the edges, right? So that we're designing for all students, because when we say all means all, we really mean that. And we have to be working on that, and how do we find those resources? It's not a one size fits all.
That's a great way to describe that. That, and it's another supplement. It's another addition to having much more autonomy.
Are there any other board comments or questions? I know we have 2 other workshops we have to take this evening before an executive session, so.
This was great.
I don't want to cut
love these.
anybody
Like,
off.
I could sit in EduClimber and iReady all day. I love that data.
You might have some volunteer time on your hands in the not-too-distant future that they may tap you for.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry.
Thank you, everyone. Mr. Burdick.
You
and
did not see that.
I was in your way.
I think he heard it better than he saw it.
I love that she didn't even look back at him.
I know, she did it. She kind of moved her body to hide it. And she's
I was
like,
trying to just pretend that nothing happened.
What happened?
I'm going to set this right here.
All right, very good. Our next workshop is strategic plan goal number 1, priority 3 with Dr. Gunlock. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Good evening, everybody. As Dr. Herzog said, I was asked to present on a strategic plan, priority 1, goal 3, specifically priority 1.
Yep.
Goal 1 is improve student learning. I still mix that up every time, goals and priorities. Improve student learning for all to ensure college, career, and community-ready graduates. Obviously, you've seen these slides before. Our strategic plan is set up to track not only completion metrics, but KPIs and observable impact as we go. It also adjusts for the length of the goal, so that's how the percent numbers are calculated by the system. As a board, you tend to focus on levels 1, 2, and 3, which are higher level metrics. We do have more granular metrics that the parents, students, and staff work in, day out. I kind of want to start this a little bit in an unorthodox way. I want to tell you what we're not focusing on, because these are things that other districts have to focus on incessantly over the past couple of years for sure. We are not focusing on purchasing and installing fiber for schools. We got that. We are not focusing on adding Wi-Fi to schools. We got that. We're not focusing on sufficient internet access. We have that in spades. We are not focusing on purchasing Chromebooks nor getting Chromebooks. We've got those too. We're not focusing on interactive whiteboards in classrooms, security infrastructure, sufficient data storage, learning management systems, robust software for instruction, and technology coaching. The reason we're not focusing on those is those are givens. Those are givens in Oshkosh, and they're not givens in most districts. And I would be remiss if we didn't take a moment and thank the people who made that possible, because that is not normal. When I speak with my counterparts in other districts, they always kind of point to Oshkosh as we have it going. Well, part of that is because the community, way back in Strategic Plan 2, told us what they wanted. We created a well-reasoned plan for how to deliver it to them, and they've supported it not once, not twice, but through 3 different operational referenda questions. So I just felt we had to take a moment and say the reason for the success in this goal was because of the foresight of the board to push this to the community and the community support, which has been absolutely humbling. So I just thank you, Oshkosh, for that. So what do we focus on? Well, we've focused on creating a future-ready school system. In other words, given the fact our technology is largely, and I'm going to say this and knock on wood, largely as reliable as the lights, and that it's just there and present for people, so what do we focus on? We focus on creating a future-ready school system. We're about 91% complete with that goal, and we have some pretty amazing data. And we're getting more data all the time, and you'll see that. So here are the core accomplishments to Goal 1, Priority 3. First off, we adopted the Future Ready Framework for schools. This is a national framework. This came a little, we were ahead of this. This came after we did a lot of our Learning Without Limits initiative. But the DPI was really solid with it, and it seemed to be very good. You'll see it aligns with some other work we've done. We established some instructional and operational technology goals. These are like objectives sitting inside our strategic plan, tightly focused on the instructional side of technology integration and some operational things that we need to just keep things running. We developed a plan for 100% access for students. This is a benefit of COVID. This is one of those good COVID things. It forced us to take mobile hotspots and make those accessible to our kids. 500 of our homes now have internet provided by the Oshkosh Area School District through the cell towers. Is it sufficient? No, but it's a really good start. So we're real pleased with that. We fully implemented Canvas as our learning management system, standardized in grades 6 through 12. And once again, another COVID opportunity is we are piloting and implementing Canvas as our learning management system K-5. We will be rolling that out as of September of this year. Canvas will be our learning management system K-12. That is how most districts do it. We've always allowed the elementaries to kind of drift where they felt they needed to, but that was before we had devices going home and devices in grades K through 2. The other part of this component of the strategic plan was we needed a replacement for our Referendum for Learning 1 and Referendum for Learning 2. Obviously, we were successful with that as well, so that's good. So there's lots of moving parts to this whole thing. As many of you know, back in 2014, before we ever rolled out one Chromebook, we realized we needed some baseline data. So we pulled together, the best place to get that at that time was the Bright Bites assessment. We've been giving that pretty much every year. We stopped for the COVID year, and you'll see that gap. We are taking it again in May, this upcoming May. So we'll have some really interesting data. The reason we like Bright Bites is it uses what's called the CASE framework. So it looks at specifics in terms of classroom usage, access for kids and teachers, skills that teachers and students use, and environment. There's a tremendous capability to drill down in each one of those. And given the fact you have a very late night, I will not do that to you. But I will show you the color code on the right on the legend, where blue is exemplary, green is advanced, sort of orange is proficient, red is emerging, and sort of dark gray is beginning. So that's one component, Bright Bites assessment. Well, then the state came in after we had done that and said, hey, we have this new thing called the Future Ready Framework. It does a lot of what Bright Bites does, but it's got some cool parts to it. So it focuses on curriculum instruction and assessment, the use of space and time, Robust infrastructure, that's very similar to the access in Bright Bites. Data and privacy, community partnerships, personalized professional learning, and budget and resources. So this is what the DPI threw in. So what we did is we took a look at this assessment as well. The Bright Bites assessment is taken by every student in grade 3 through 12, every professional teacher K-12. So we get, and we have 99% plus completion rate. The Future Ready assessment, what you do is you pull together specific teams, because there's certain people who cannot necessarily answer things about robust infrastructure unless they know something about it. So you create Future Ready gear teams that have enough knowledge to be able to take the assessment and gather the data. Lastly are the instructional technology literacy standards. These are focused in equitable access, personalized learning, applied and engaged learning. This is focused on what we want the students to know and be able to do. So the previous two sort of measure the conditions within the Oshkosh Area School District. This here measures what we want the students to know and be able to do. And the ITL standards are relatively have been recently updated, because they hadn't been updated for 20 years. And it focuses on standards for creating an empowered learner, a digital citizen, an innovative designer, knowledge constructor, computational thinker, creative communicator, and global collaborator. So that's where those standards reside. Now, there is no set assessment for ITL standards. They are woven into the other coursework that we do, whether it's literacy or mathematics. These are the lenses with which we take a look. So how does this all fit? Like I said, lots of moving parts. How does this all fit together? Well, we obviously have goal 1, priority 3, and we've had some success in that goal. And really the data for that is based on the Bright Bites assessment, the Future Ready Gear assessments, as well as ITL standards work. And all of those are aligned together quite well, and there's crosswalk tables for each. So we do use all three. It's a little redundant to use the Bright Bites piece, but it gives us some specific data that we've wanted to use until we got our referendum for learning replaced. We wanted to make sure we had a good track of the same data, same assessment, given to the same way. So let's look at the data. Let's go ahead and take a look at the data that we have. So we'll start with the Bright Bites. And this is our data from 2014. Now this is sort of the overall dashboard snapshot. You can see that as a district we get a total score of 1048. We're proficient. Part of the reason, as you can see, our classroom scores back in 2014 were pretty low. The use of the 4 Cs were pretty low. Our access was good. I mean, it was advanced, but it wasn't exemplary. Our skills were pretty good, and our environment was proficient. But when we went from 2014 was when we gave teachers the device. When we moved to 2015, you'll notice the scores began to tick up. The access went up, which you would understand because we've given kids more access. 2016, it goes up again, and 2018, it goes up again. And that was the last time we did the assessment in fall of 2018. We were going to do 2019, but the 19-20 school year, we decided to move the assessment to the spring because teachers kept saying, I'd really like to know the results from what I did this year, not from what a previous teacher did the previous year. So we said, okay, we'll shift it. We'll get standardized. We'll give it in the spring. Spring, COVID hit, and we didn't give the assessment. So we're giving it this spring and moving forward from there. So each one of these, so if I take a look at like the classroom scores, you'll see use of 4 Cs, digital citizenship assessment, and assistive tech. Those can be broken down, and these can be broken down by building. So each building gets their own Bright Bite report to find out exactly where they're strong, where they're weak, and the tech coaches specifically use those to tailor the professional development to the teachers in question. Interesting thing here, you notice the difference between teacher and student use of the 4 Cs. You will find that as a common theme. Our kids are often ahead of our teachers. That's one reason. Second reason is our teachers are overly critical on themselves. They don't think they're as good at doing certain things as we know they are, and so they self-rate a little bit lower. So we think that's why some of that is occurring. The access, we have tremendous access, and you're going to see that aligns really well with the Future Ready gears. So there's a lot of validity there. This one's going to be interesting because students at home was the area that was kind of a little bit limited. And by the way, when people wondered how many access points we were going to need, You heard me say all along about 93 to 98% of our kids have access in the home. That translated to about 500 students who did not, and coincidentally, we've handed out 500 hotspots. So this data's been relatively accurate. In addition, little side topic, we now ask this at online registration as part of a Department of Public Instruction initiative. It's the same survey every district gives, and it flows back into the WISE data dashboard. So that's really cool too. These are the skills scores. You can see the foundational skills. You'll notice the teacher online skills, once again, proficient, but the lower spot. So these are how we can differentiate some of these things. So that's sort of how our Bright Bites assessment data has stacked up. We do very well. We think it's going to be interesting now that students, especially K-5, have had devices in the home. So how do we measure on the Future Ready assessment? Well, this is the overall dashboard. It looks a little different, but the number I would draw you to is in the upper right-hand corner. This one is nationally normed. The other one can be too, but you got to go in and pull the data to look at it. But in this case, they do it automatically. So the black dots are where the rest of the nation is. We score 7.1 overall. The nation scores about 6.28. So we're doing quite well. And no surprise, the area where we're knocking it out of the park is robust infrastructure, data privacy, community partnerships. That's how we did everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was done through community partnerships, and that's how we got the yes votes on the referendum, I think.
Yep.
So there's nothing surprising me here. I'll just take a little deeper dive. Robust infrastructure, you can see we pegged the needle on that one. That's been our focal point since really probably 2012 when we had to rebuild the technology systems in Oshkosh. I guarantee you around 2010 to 2011, we would not have rated that highly because there was no internet in the classrooms. So this is good. The use of space and time, I pulled this one out because this was our lowest. Does not surprise me. What is our number, if I were to ask you as board members, what is the number one instructional focus that you're worried about right now? What have you normally looked at in terms of scores, and your main concern has normally been, the conversations have been around literacy. In fact, even a few minutes ago, your conversations were about literacy. So a lot of times, we've lasered in a lot of our professional development and a lot of our work in that area. Well, one thing that we heard from this survey loud and clear is sometimes people are not quite so quick to put forward PD ideas in other areas. So the use of space and time hasn't really synchronized with the ITL standards yet. That's very common. And even if you look at the black dots, nobody does real well nationwide on this one. But the biggest thing that we get from some of this is teachers really like the concept of personalized professional development. Just like their students like personalized learning, they like personalized learning. That's something that has really started to shape some of our PD offerings as a school system. So that just gives you a snippet of the Future Ready gears. We continue to take those gears, just like the Bright Bites assessment, and we use those to direct our planning efforts. So how do we then take all that information and focus on actionable objectives for IT transformation going forward? What we did is we had the District Technology Committee that meets as 32 people from around the district. They meet 4 times a year. Their sole goal is to look over the horizon and figure out what do we need to do to stay ahead of everybody else. So they create a series of what we call operational goals. These are kind of dry, not necessarily instructional related, but often infrastructure focused. These goals are aligned, as you can see with the check marks, to the various Future Ready gears. So developing flexible learning spaces, that hits the curriculum gear and the use of space and time gear. That is something the DTT is working on right now in the design of the new middle school and the new elementary school. Because we could talk about it all we wanted before this, but we didn't have a new school to go play with. So now we have time to actually design something and put some of this great learning into use. Provide internet access to students who do not have some. That was an unfunded goal of ours, and we knew it was there. But until COVID hit, we didn't have the push to, frankly, do it without a budget. We just kind of went forward with it. We had to, otherwise certain students wouldn't have been able to learn. Provide professional development where students have voice, choice, and pacing options. Staff have voice, choice, and pacing options. That's a focus. Improve social media presence as part of the district communications plan. I think our communications I know Katie does a wonderful job, but holy cow, I think every person who's done communications has been overloaded this year too because of COVID, because of all the communications that had to be done. Creating an emergency communication system. We're installing right now a PA system that will resolve the issues at West High School. It's being installed as we speak. It's going to be amazing, state-of-the-art, and something for us to really look forward to going forward. Maintain and depreciate technology assets on a regular cycle. That's how we budget things. That's how we're able to do things to make sure that we keep our infrastructure active, vibrant, and able to meet the learning needs of our teachers and our students. Provide detailed information and resources around data privacy. We've really focused in on data privacy. Luke Simonson is one of our tech staff members. He's really, he's the one who does phishing attacks on all of you. So if you want to blame somebody, blame Luke. Because he's gotten me too. I'll put my hand up. You know, I've gotten caught a few times myself. So, but that whole focal point on how do we deal with data privacy, how do we make sure that things are controlled and protected, because our student data is very precious to all of us. Provide budget for ongoing technology professional development for staff. We've continued to do that as well because we realize, I think Dr. Herzog says you can't have enough chocolate, professional development. I forget what the other one is.
Communication.
Communication,
Oh,
there we
thank you.
go. So we hit all three of those
Very
throughout
good.
this
Well
plan.
done.
The instructional tech goals are specific to instructional needs, creating a digital learning environment that supports traditional, hybrid, and fully online coursework. We wrote this before we ever envisioned what was going to happen this year. Provide support for all secondary teachers to use Canvas. We're actually going to ramp that up to even elementary teachers now, and we have a tremendous support system in place for them. I think one of the best developed Canvas courses that there is for teachers to quickly onboard themselves with Canvas. Integrate our ITL standards into curriculum using the PLC 2.0 practices. You've heard that before from the curriculum team, some of the PLC 2.0 work. We are the left hand and the right hand. Technology and curriculum work together that closely in this district. And by the way, that, above all else, is the secret sauce. That's where the other districts get stuck, because technology's over there, curriculum's over there, and they don't necessarily talk. And oftentimes technology reports to the business office, and curriculum reports to the superintendent, and they don't always line up. Here, we laugh all the time. I think we can finish each other's sentences sometimes in terms of some of these initiatives, and that helps. Create a Canvas 2.0 course. That's been created and is being used with the K-5 Canvas pilot. Leverage Bright Bites data to improve instructional technology and personalized PD. We do that annually. And provide single sign-on using ClassLink tied to the OASD app approval process. Sounds simple, it's really complex. But the end goal is you change your password once. It changes everywhere else. And that way, teachers are more likely to change their password. And also, the apps just get served up to people. So it makes it easier and faster for teachers. Lastly, utilize the new OASD website to provide information to parents on what instruction looks like in the future. We're going to continue to leverage our website, which hits the use of space, time, and the community partnerships gear. So this is just how these things line up for us. And so we know that our work is hitting all the targets. So lastly, the operational referendum. I don't have to tell you guys this. We're just taking a little victory lap for a moment. We basically combined the two referenda for learning. And while those really support a lot of other items other than technology, about $1.5 million of the $7.95 million is what allows us to do all the tech. It's much smaller than other districts have had, but we built this well. We built this right from the ground up to be able to handle that. And I can say I would put our technology systems up against any district in the state. So once again, thank you to all of you in the school district. Okay, there we go. That's pretty quick. Any questions?
Anybody have any
That's
questions?
quick for me.
I
I
was
should
just
just say
gonna
it's
say, I
quick
love how
for
he
me.
self-proclaims that was quick, Dave.
Mrs. Carlin.
So I've been working at the senior center, getting them set up on technology.
Mhm.
And one thing that we've been looking at is portable Wi-Fi. And I've thought many, many times, how lucky are we that we obtained all those portable Wi-Fis before the pandemic?
Yeah.
But it wasn't luck, it was planning. It was your team having the forward thinking that we needed to get that done. So I just wanted to say thank you for
Oh,
doing that,
you're
because I
welcome.
think portable Wi-Fi is like unaffordable now. I don't think you can even find it.
Well, in buying the way, given the fact that we had a set revenue source, so we didn't have to just wonder what our budget was going to be each year, means that vendors can count on us and we can count on them.
Right.
So when we have to pick up the phone and say, we need something, they answer us because they know we're there every year. Sometimes other districts don't have that advantage. So that's part of the side benefit of this.
So I did have a question also.
Sure.
Regarding Infinite Campus. Now that we're going to Canvas, are we going to keep Infinite Campus and for lunches and schedule and stuff like
Yes.
that? Okay.
IC is a student information system. It holds a whole lot of stuff. In fact, Canvas, as a learning management system, we weren't even going to use that for grading. But it had such a nice grading component, and our secondary teachers said, it's really easy. Can we use this? And then Julie and I worked together on making sure that all fits and the data passes back and forth. But IC is our student information system of record, and that feeds data to the state in terms of behaviors and, like you said, lunch data. We also use it to collect fees and fines and things of that nature. So they do some of the same things,
Well,
but a lot of the different
registration.
things.
We register Infinite
Yes.
Campus too,
Mhm.
yeah. And it's an easy system to use.
Well,
And if you
Infinite
wanted-
Campus
it's a
is
quick time to look at grades too. It's easy and quick and, yeah.
IC is trying to be a learning management system. I kind of like that because they kind of push each other. And could they someday overtake Canvas? Not likely, because Infinite Campus, think of it as a Swiss Army knife. It has all the tools, but a dedicated bottle opener can do some pretty amazing things. So that's kind of how it works.
Very good. Any other questions or comments?
That was really good.
Thank you, Dr. Gunlock. It's always good to get updates on our strategic plan.
You're very
Well
welcome.
done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our third workshop this evening is Business Office Staffing Plans with Mr. Nehans.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I had presented this business office proposal to the Finance and Facility Committee a month ago, and they had asked me to bring this to the board. The purpose of this is as I've been getting myself situated here in the district in Oshkosh, trying to look at efficiencies and how the business office functions. One of the glaring things that has come up time and time again when we're faced with a challenge has been our lack of heads and bodies in the office to be able to handle the variety of tasks that we get asked to do. So I did an analysis compared to other districts our size in our makeup, and kind of put that together for you for what a typical business office would look like, and then kind of where we are now, and then where I would like to take the office if the board approves. So the way we are currently staffed, we have just under 7.5 FTE technically. Transportation grant specialist and our wellness coordinator could potentially, through attrition, get wrapped into another position. But this is how we're currently made up. And some of this does take into account that the board, when we replaced our purchasing clerk, we did change that into an assistant controller to start setting ourselves up for succession with our controller. When Mrs. Handy decides to retire at some point, we have someone that we'll have in place. So this is our current structure. Here's some comparable districts. Janesville, out of this group, is a little bit of an oddball. They've got 11 people in their business office, but all of their payroll clerk actually falls under HR in their district, and payroll here falls under the business office. That is something that you do notice in districts, depending on how they classify their benefits coordinators or their payroll will depend on, sometimes it sits in HR, sometimes it sits in the business office. So these are the comparables, Fond du Lac is the smallest, they're closest to us. They're also a couple of thousand students smaller than us. But they were the closest district really to us that is structured somewhat more like us. So typical average is in and around 10 to 11 is what would be typical. And we're, again, sitting less than 8 in our current staff. So breaking down the business office by spending, this is by a percentage of our operating budget, but then also on a per pupil spending basis. So the average of these 11 districts is $134 a student, and we're spending at $115 a student. So we do have some opportunity to get to the average and still have some ability to spend. So if we were to spend what the average is, that would mean we'd expense another $185,000 annually within the business office. So what I'm proposing is we would increase our total FTEs to 9 over a period of time. The immediate need is we do have a more immediate need to have a second accounts payable person. And then at that point, we would look for attrition. We've got 3 members of the current business office that are potentially going to be stepping out of their positions in the next 2 to 5 years. And at that time, when through attrition, then we would add the 9th FTE at that time and consolidate a couple of the positions and make it into a catch-all. Right now, I've got it as a payroll benefits clerk to help that office. So that's kind of where that's sectioned in. But then we would have the actual payroll manager, the benefits manager, 2 APs, and then another assistant help in the payroll. Any questions?
I do have one. I believe you said that earlier that the staffing FTE is currently 7.4. You're proposing 9.0. So is the request for 1.6?
Well, the way I'm envisioning it is to have the flexibility to get to 9. It wouldn't sit at 9 right away, but
Okay,
rather than
yeah.
come back when the attrition happens, because we're really not sure, and I don't want to force their hands into saying, okay, now I'm coming down and saying I need to get to 9, but this is the only way I get to 9.
I see.
So I'd rather work with those 3
Right.
and say, you're not under pressure to do this. It's still, we'll work with you. We still want you here. They've been here and they've been in the district for a number of years. They have a wealth of knowledge and history in the positions they hold. So I'd rather just be able to have that flexibility down the road to get to that other position when that makes sense.
Okay. So if I understood you correctly, your goal is just to get to 9.0, but you wouldn't do that by the fall. You would increase
Correct.
as appropriate.
I would like to get to, if we could approve the 9.0, what my process would be is to put out an accounts payable position, which would get me to 8.4 roughly, because depending on how this times out, my current AP may scale back some of her time, potentially down in the near future. So that would kind of level me out a little bit on closer to 8 potentially, but then save that other FTE for down the road when we have the full attrition.
Sure.
How long down the road are you looking at? Like 5 years, 1 year?
I would say more than likely less than 5. It's not going to be that long term, but again, I also don't want to go to those 3 and say it's going to happen in 3 months.
Okay.
So.
Mr. Peschel, I believe you're next.
Sure. I guess I was looking ahead at the proposal in here. And it kind of suggests that the financial impact actually shows that there's savings for the district if we go this way down the long term. In the sense that there's going to be some extra money up front to do the accounts payable position, but when we go to add that next position, It's actually kind of budget neutral
Correct.
in that sense, so.
Partly through the attrition I was speaking
Okay.
about. The first position will have a somewhat of a savings because the one accounts payable person sometime before the next school year is anticipating that she may back off. So we'll have a little savings in a position in there. And then we are looking at through complete attrition of the three positions when we get to the 9th.
Sure, okay. I guess I just wanted to kind of make that a little bit more clear, is that we get to add positions and not necessarily add more finances to that element. It kind of pays for itself.
Correct.
So,
Any
Thank
other,
you.
I'm sorry, any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Bob. That was important.
Yes, it was. Good point. Well, thank you, Mr. Nehans.
Okay.
Appreciate your
Thank you.
time sharing tonight. Our next agenda item then is the consent resolution agenda. For the consent agenda, the board has been furnished with background material on each item or has discussed it at a previous meeting. These will be acted upon with one vote without discussion. If a board member wants to discuss any item, it will be pulled out of the consent agenda and will be voted on separately. The board will consider 1, minutes of February 24th, 2021, special board meeting, executive session revised, 2, personnel resolution, A, appointments, temporary appointments, resignations and salaries, B, retirements, 3, business office staffing plan. We will be pulling out 2B. Is there any other one we want to pull out? Okay, then we would need a motion to approve 1, 2, 2A, that is, and 3 at this time.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Olmsted,
Aye.
Heschel,
aye.
Szilagyi,
Aye.
Harlan,
Aye.
Evans,
Aye.
Garner,
Aye.
Herzog.
Aye.
The ayes have it, resolution carries.
Thank you. Excuse me. Resolution 2B, be it resolved that the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education approve the retirements as filed with the Secretary to the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
Once again, I've asked that we pull this resolution related to retirements. Tonight, we would be approving retirements for 4 individuals who have given over, looks like 80 years at least, to the Oshkosh Area School District's students and staff. And I always see this as a bittersweet moment because we're losing really good people. We know they'll be replaced with good people, but it's we lose a lot of institutional memory when we lose good people. So I want to note tonight we would be approving retirements for Barbara Jaworski, who is an occupational therapist, currently serving at Emmeline Cook, Merrill Elementary, and the Ready for Learning program. She's been in the district for 26 years. Michelle Philbin is an instructional support specialist, currently serving at Washington Elementary, and she has 20 years of service to our district. Ann Schultz is an art teacher at Webster Stanley Middle School. She has been with the district since 1999, so she has served our students and staff and families for 22 years. And finally tonight, Tracy Zangle, Mrs. Tracy Zangle, a 4th grade teacher at Emmeline Cook Elementary School. She has been employed with the district since 1990, or for 31 years. We want to wish all of these teachers and occupational therapists a long, healthy, and happy retirement, and sincerely thank them for the contributions they've made for the learning and the growth of our students. Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Heschel,
Aye.
Szilagyi. Aye. Harlan.
Aye.
Evans,
Aye.
Garner,
Aye.
Herzog,
Aye.
Olmsted.
Aye.
Ayes have it, resolution carries.
In many ways this evening we've been celebrating accomplishments and achievements. And we're also recognizing 3 longtime board members who together have a combined service of 22 years to our district. So we have 3 individually considered resolutions, one for each of our departing board members. Resolution number 4. Be it resolved that Mr. James Evans be commended for his contribution to the Oshkosh Area School District as a member of the Board of Education. As a member of the board, Jim Evans has served as board clerk for 4 years, Education Committee Chair and member, Energy Committee Chair, Co-Chair and member, Administrator Compensation Committee Chair and member, Facilities and Finance Committee Vice Chair and member, Legislative Committee Chair, Partners in Education Advisory Committee member, OEA Negotiations Team, OPEA Negotiations Team, and WASB Delegate Assembly Representative. Jim Evans, for 6 years, 2015 to 2021, has been a dedicated and conscientious member of the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education. Jim demonstrates dignity and respect for all related to the functioning and operations of this school district, including students, staff, families, and the community. Jim is a most positive supporter of all OASD employees, teachers, custodial maintenance, paraprofessionals, secretaries, food service, and administration. Jim is always prepared and can be counted on to be an active participant at committee and full school board meetings. As a board member, Jim has focused on the big picture, appropriately leaving day-to-day operations to the district administration. Jim has represented the district as board delegate to the annual January Wisconsin Association of School Boards Delegate Assembly for 4 years. His participation in the Delegate Assembly, Annual State Convention, and other WASB learning opportunities has led to his attainment of Level 3 in the WASB Member Recognition Program. Jim had a vision of getting the board more involved in legislative issues. He served a key role in the establishment of the board's first legislative committee and served as its first chairperson. Jim has been a consistent and passionate advocate of expanded arts education for all district students and regularly promotes the concept of STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, to enhance student learning. Excuse me. Jim has sought to be a trusted steward of the district's finances. At the same time, he has been part of what has been described as a good board, quote unquote, seeking to make positive long-term and short-term decisions to move the district forward to benefit students, staff, and the community. The board and district have benefited from his support of the development of a long-range facilities plan for the school district, excuse me, Fund 46, funds for the 10-year capital plan, the opportunity for voters to approve the largest referendum in district history for construction of 2 new schools, safety and security upgrades, and infrastructure needs, accountability in implementing district strategic plans, energy upgrades throughout the district through the Energy Efficiency Program, updating and revising all board policies, establishing a district diversity and equity committee, upgrading tracks at both high schools, global studies program at Oshkosh West, project search for special education students, Fab Lab at Oshkosh North, curriculum and instruction improvements, purchase of Chromebooks for all K-12 students and purchase of hotspots for those who needed them, an emphasis on equity where all students can learn, and expansion of mental health services in our schools. Just a few examples. Lastly, as a longtime member of the Oshkosh Area School District community, Jim Evans has represented the citizens, parents, staff, and students of his community in a most outstanding manner. Jim is well aware that the only reason that the Oshkosh Area School District exists is the education of all students in our community. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution is forwarded to Mr. Jim Evans with the gratitude, thanks, and best wishes of his colleagues on the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education, resolved this 14th day of April, 2021.
So move.
Second.
Who chose the second?
Kelly, is there any discussion?
Wow.
How
All right.
about full steam ahead,
Yeah.
Jim? Get it? The steam, no, thanks. Terrible pun, terrible pun. I'm gonna miss you. Thank you for your service.
As the board president, I was informed that it was my responsibility to write something, and I had the benefit of looking at a couple of samples that focused on the individual, and so I started there. But I also tried to look at the bigger picture in terms of we are one of 7 when we sit at this table, and together we don't move anything forward unless we have a majority. And the list of things that have been accomplished in Jim's tenure on the board is a reflection of the support that has been garnered by him and the rest of the board. So there's been a lot that has been accomplished in his tenure, and he will be receiving not only a plaque of gratitude from the school district, but the Wisconsin Association of School Boards also provides a certificate of commendation that reads, "Certificate of commendation is presented to Jim Evans in recognition for your service to the children in Wisconsin Public Schools 2015 to 21, signed WASB President Suzanne Today and WASB Executive Director Mr. John Ashley," along with a copy of what I just read.
Nice.
Is there any further discussion?
I'm afraid I'll cry if I just go.
Jim, we will miss you. There's been a lot accomplished in your tenure, and you've certainly provided a vision with STEAM and with a legislative committee established in our district. So you can always come back and visit. You're always welcome. Anyone else?
Thank you.
All right, please call the roll.
Szilagyi?
Aye.
Harlan?
Aye.
Evans?
Present.
Gardner?
Aye.
Herzog?
Aye.
Olmsted?
Aye.
Heschel?
Aye.
The ayes have it, resolution carries.
And the plaque reads, "On behalf of the entire Oshkosh Area School District community, a sincere thank you is extended to Jim Evans in recognition of faithful service as a member of the Board of Education 2015 to 2021, dated this 14th day of April 2021, with the names of the board president and the board vice president." Thank you so much, Jim.
All right.
Resolution number 5, excuse me, commendation of departing board member Allison Garner. Now, some of these may seem a bit repetitive because you accomplished a lot and you served overlapping terms. So it's not that I got lazy, it's just that, again, you were one of 7 who made these things happen. Resolution number 5, be it resolved that Mrs. Allison Garner be commended for her contributions to the Oshkosh Area School District as a member of its Board of Education. As a Board of Education member, Allison Garner has served as board treasurer for 3 years, vice president, 1 year, board president 2 years, policy and governance committee member, human growth and development advisory committee member, FSEA negotiations team, OEA negotiations team, chair and member of facilities and finance committee, energy committee member, education committee member, administrator compensation committee member, partners in education advisory committee member, TIF district representative alternate, city planning commission representative, excuse me, and the Oshkosh Public Library and Public Museum board member. Allison Garner, for 10 years, 2011 to 2021, has been a dedicated and involved member of the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education. I'm sorry, a lot to read here. Allison demonstrates dignity and respect for all related to the functioning and operations of this school district, including students, staff, families, and community. Allison is a most positive supporter of all OASD employees, teachers, custodial maintenance, paraprofessionals, secretaries, food service, and administration. Thank you. Allison is always prepared and can be counted on to be an active participant at committee and at full school board meetings. Allison has brought a scientific, inquiring mind to seek to understand all district operations and decisions and their impact on students and staff. Her ability to, quote, unquote, see the big picture and to ask insightful questions often led to greater understanding for herself and for her board colleagues. Allison has sought to be a trusted steward of the district's finances. At the same time, she has been part of what has often been described as, quote, unquote, a good board, seeking to make positive long-term and short-term decisions to move the district forward to benefit students, staff, and the community. The board and district have benefited from her support of the development of a long-range facilities plan for the school district, establishing a Fund 46 for facility needs for the 10-year capital plan, the opportunity for voters to approve the largest referendum in district history for construction of 2 new schools, safety and security upgrades, and infrastructure needs, accountability in implementing district strategic plans, energy upgrades throughout the district through the Energy Efficiency Program, updating and revising all board policies, establishing a district diversity and equity committee, upgrading tracks at both high schools, communities program at Oshkosh North High School, global studies program at Oshkosh West High School, project search for special education students, Fab Lab at Oshkosh North High School, curriculum and instruction improvements, purchase of Chromebooks for all K-12 students, and purchase of hotspots for those who needed them, an emphasis on equity where all students can learn, and expansion of mental health services in our schools as a few examples. Allison was a member of the board that recommended a new Oak Lawn school to voters via referendum that resulted in a new Oak Lawn Elementary School that opened in the fall of 2013. In addition, Allison was a member of a board that supported use of TIF funds to assist in the renovation and building addition to Lakeside Elementary School in 2014 to 2015. Lastly, as a member of the Oshkosh Area School District community, Allison Garner has represented the citizens, parents, staff, and students of her community in a most outstanding manner. Allison is keenly aware that the only reason for the Oshkosh Area School District to exist is the education of all students in the community. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution is forwarded to Mrs. Allison Garner with the appreciation, thanks, and best wishes of her colleagues on the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education, resolved this 14th day of April, 2021.
So moved.
Discussion.
I can't wait to talk to you again outside of the boardroom.
Yes.
Well, it'd be easy, Allison, to just use the words that usually describe you as smart, data-driven. I'm not going to talk about those things. I'm going to talk about how funny you are.
Oh.
You are, and you only know it if you sit next to you, because you're very quiet about it. And I sat next to you when you were president and now here because of COVID. But some of the things you come up with are so funny. It's just.
Thank you.
Good sense of humor.
Thank you for noticing.
I know sometimes humor, you say it and it's like dead silence, but.
Well, Mrs. Garner, there's been a lot that's been accomplished during your tenure, of which you've been a key player. And we are grateful for those contributions, and you will be missed on this board.
Absolutely.
Any other comments or discussion? Please call the roll.
Carlin?
Aye.
Evans?
Aye.
Garner?
Present.
Herzog?
Yes.
Olmsted?
Aye.
Peschel?
Aye.
Szilagyi? Aye. The ayes have it, resolution carries.
All right, Mrs. Garner. Let's see. She gets a similar plaque to that of Mr. Evans, although it has her name on it, not his. Certificate from the Wisconsin Association of School Boards. Thank you.
Thank you.
The poll is right.
We've both been vaccinated.
Yeah.
Yes.
Resolution number 6. Are you ready, Mrs. Olmsted?
No. You know me, I'm a little emotional, so.
Be it resolved that Mrs. Kelly Olmsted be commended for her contributions to the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education member. As a member of the Board of Education, Kelly Olmsted has served as board treasurer for 2 years, board vice president 3 years, policy and governance committee chair and member, education committee member, facilities and finance committee chair and member, administrator compensation committee member, energy committee vice chair and member, human growth and development advisory committee member, OPEA negotiations team, city planning commission alternate, NTEA negotiations team, and TIF district representative alternate. Kelly Olmsted, for 6 years, 2015 to 2021, has been a dedicated, involved, and passionate member of the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education. Kelly demonstrates dignity and respect for all related to the functioning and operations of this school district, including its students, staff, families, and the community. Kelly is a most positive supporter of all OASD employees, teachers, custodial maintenance, professionals, secretaries, food service, and administration. A frequent question she asks is, quote, "How will this decision affect students?" Kelly is always prepared and can be counted on to be an active participant at committee and full board meetings. Her ability to see the big picture often led her to conduct her own research into how other districts do things and to share this information with her board colleagues and administration.
Show us your notebook. Right, I've got like 1,700 of them.
Kelly is well known for her insightful questions to better understand the functions and plans of all aspects of the district. Her attention to detail is keenly evident in policy and governance meeting, where a random comma, a stray capitalization, or a confusing section of text will not go unnoticed. Kelly is sought to be a trusted steward of the district's finances. At the same time, she has been part of what has often been described as, quote, "a good board," seeking to make positive long-term and short-term decisions to move the district forward to benefit students, staff, and the community. The board and district have benefited from her support for the development of a long-range facilities plan for the school district, the opportunity for voters to approve the largest referendum in district history, for the construction of 2 new schools, safety and security upgrades, and infrastructure needs. Accountability in implementing district strategic plans, energy upgrades throughout the district through the energy efficiency program, updating and revising all board policies, establishing a Fund 46 for facility needs for funds for the 10-year capital plan, establishing a district diversity and equity committee, upgrading tracks at both high schools, global studies program at Oshkosh West, Project Search for special education students, Fab Lab at Oshkosh North, curriculum and instruction improvements, purchase of Chromebooks for all K-12 students, and purchase of hotspots for those who needed them, an emphasis on equity where all students can learn, an expansion of mental health services in our schools, for a few examples. Prior to her board service, Kelly was actively involved in the schools that her children attended. She was a member of the design team at Lakeside School, which led to the remodeling and addition at Lakeside Elementary School in 2014 to 2015. Lastly, as a member of the Oshkosh Area School District community, Kelly has represented the citizens, parents, staff, and students of her community in a most outstanding manner. Kelly is keenly aware that the only reason for the Oshkosh Area School District to exist is the education of all students in our community. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution is forwarded to Mrs. Olmsted with the appreciation, thanks, and best wishes of her colleagues on the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education, as filed with the Secretary to the Board of Education, resolved this 14th day of April, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Is there discussion?
Yeah, Kelly, you and I got on board at the same time, and I always figured we'd get off at the same time. And thanks to the voters of Oshkosh, that's going to happen. One thing I can say about you is when you feel passionate about something, my God, nothing's going to stop you. Don't get in your way, because you're just going to achieve that goal no matter what. And I will always respect that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I was going to literally say the same thing, is that you have such a big heart, and we've been really lucky to have you advocating for our students, because I feel like you do treat all of our students like they're your students, and you care, and I'm really going to miss you. Thank you for your service.
Thanks. Anyone else? Well, I'm going to certainly miss you as person who sits next to me at the board meetings and helps with agenda planning and brings another perspective. Sometimes we were kind of like yin and yang, which was good.
Kind of how I describe me and Jim. He's like my brother that we're always on opposite terms. We're always talking to each other about something, yeah.
But I think we made a good pair as president and vice president, and I'm going to miss your wise counsel and your passion for the students and everyone in the school district. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Anyone else? Kelly will also be receiving a similar plaque to those of Jim and Allison. I don't remember the last time we've had 3 board members leave at the same time.
Your name is on mine.
Some board members never have to write those statements. It was heartwarming to do that, reflecting on the positives
It's really
that
nice.
we collectively have done, and they have, and how they've contributed to all that. So we're going to miss all 3 of them. And then, of course, the certificate from the Wisconsin Association of School Boards and a copy of the resolution I just read.
And then if you two want those framed.
Oh, you know somebody? I know, you do know somebody?
He knows a guy.
He's got a frame guy.
All right, but you're always, all 3 of you are always welcome back anytime. Call us up or text us or whatever, keep us in the loop. Please call the roll.
Evans?
Aye.
Garner?
Aye.
Herzog?
Aye.
Olmsted?
Present.
Heschel?
Aye.
Slodgy?
Hi.
Carlin?
Aye.
The ayes have it, resolution carries.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, right? Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Small but mighty.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there requests for any future agenda items?
Yeah, I think one thing you people should do
I love it.
is, when I was running this time, I think Mr. Carnes will agree with me, we had a meeting, a Zoom meeting with the parent, Zoom Facebook group of the parents of black and brown students. And I think you should maybe try to organize a workshop with some of those people, because what some of the things they said were quite,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, I actually was going to ask if that's something that anyone thought we should do with the education committee, or if that's something that you need to do as a full board. I had thought of that this week as well, as you mentioned that. Maybe with the equity group that's already created.
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Okay. Put that out there for the next board president and vice president to plan the agenda with the administration. We had previously asked about doing a workshop on Robert's Rules, and that's probably going to take place on May 14th with an attorney with a strong background in Robert's Rules for all of us moving forward. Yeah. Any other future agenda item suggestions? Moving on to announcements then, are there any announcements? I would just like to note that next week is Administrative Professionals Week, Administrative Assistants Week, Secretaries Week. So if you know a secretary, if you know an administrative assistant, let those people know how much they're appreciated. They do an awful lot, and particularly for this meeting. Sherry Wirtz did a lot of behind-the-scenes work to make all those certificates and plaques ready, and it was under a tight timeline, and so be sure and thank a secretary or 2 or 3 this coming week, or administrative assistant, for the work that they do. Any other announcements? All right. Then we will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session. The executive session is to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility under Section 19.85 paren 1 paren C of the Wisconsin statutes, and conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning a strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved under Wisconsin Statute 19.85 paren 1 paren G. A, meeting with legal counsel to review an internal investigation matter.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Garner?
Aye.
Herzog?
Aye.
Olmsted?
Aye.
Heschel?
Aye.
Szilagyi?
Aye.
Garland?
Aye.
Evans?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned into executive session.
Adjourned. Thank you, everyone.